Hi all. Today's topic is tenders. If you have referred to my earlier sessions, I had made discussions related to contracts, different types of contracts, or how the contract document has to be formed and the contract clauses has to be formed. Those details were discussed in my earlier session. Okay, the topic was named as contracts. So in today's session, I'll be dealing with tenders. So basically construction projects, how the construction projects tendering process will be processed in actual scenario. Those discussions will be made in today's session. Okay, so this tender topic has been divided into two different parts. That is tender as part one and tender part two. Today's discussion in this particular session, I'll be discussing with tenders part one. Okay, the main lecture objective, or at the end of this lecture, what is the lecture outcome? The lecture outcome is the identify and explain tendering requirements. Okay, so the next outcome is also identify different types of tendering process that will be in the next lecture. But in this, after learning this session, the student should be able to identify and explain tendering requirements of a construction project. Okay, the definition, what I mean, what is tender? Tender is nothing but an offer from a contractor to undertake a work in return for a certain sum of money. Okay, so an offer from a contractor. So usually tenders are called from the for the contractors. Okay, there will be a client or a owner whom he will not be capable of executing work. So to execute work on behalf of the client or a owner, okay, the tenders will be called and the contracts will be awarded to the contractors. Basically, it might be contracting or a contractor again subcontracting the work. Okay, let me take an example. Okay, if a person wants to construct his house, okay, he is not an engineer or he is not a builder. Okay, he is just a common person who wants to construct a house for his residential purpose. So in this case, what that person does is he goes and contacts some engineer, okay, who is specialized in designing of the residential buildings. So there might be some other uh, criteria, or there might be some other options for him to select the contractors. Or sometimes what happens is the engineer himself will be having he will be having his contractors, or he will be having his resource person. Okay, so here the common person who is giving the job, or who is offering a job to be conducted by some other person, is called as a tendering process. Basically, there is an offer from a contractor to undertake a work in return for a certain sum of money. Okay, here the engineer offers that person, the common person, for constructing his house. Engineer accepts some money on in return for construction of a house. That is called as a tender. Okay, usually for what kind of works this tendering process will be there? Usually the tendering process will be there for a construction work. Okay, supply of materials, supply of machinery and equipment, supply of transport or the transportation of materials. If you had seen the daily newspapers, or if you had seen some magazines, basically the people, okay, there might be notification in the newspaper, the invitation for tender. So what do you mean by that invitation for tender? The person, some client or a owner or some other person, okay, wants to get the work done. Okay, in return he or she will be paying some money, okay, to that particular person who finishes the work. Okay, so that is called as tendering process. It might be related to construction work, or sometimes for supplying of materials. Supplying of materials in construction projects might be cement, aggregates, bricks, or sometimes this doors, windows. Okay, Like that, there are different construction materials. Okay, so supply of machinery and equipments, sometimes for a huge construction. Okay, the clients or the contractors will not be having their own machinery and equipments, so that they will get it from some other person or they hire it from some other person. So this process, hiring process, is also a part of contracting job. Okay, that is why against the supply of machinery and equipments. So sometimes the transportation of material, there might be purchased materials with the company for the continuous supply. Okay, the transportation of materials might be there. Okay, so the transport of materials might be coming into picture. Okay, this is also a part of or one type of contracting job. Okay, the different types of tenders or different concepts that are coming in the tender is earnest money deposit. So what do you mean by earnest money deposit? Earnest money deposit is some type of or some form of security deposit. Usually, what the contractor will do is to show the interest that they are willing to work. Okay, so to show the interest that they are willing to work against the job, okay, of the invitation of tender. So the client or the owner calls for a particular job, and the contractor is willing to take up that job. So to show interest in that particular job, the contractor deposits some money, okay, to show the willingness of work. That money, okay, to show the willingness of work is called as earnest money deposit. Okay, so this earnest money deposit again, if you refer to the contracts session, it is more in detail. Just to brief it out, okay, it is some type of security deposit, not actually not actually a security deposit, but to show interest that contractor is willing to work. Okay, usually this earnest money deposit will be decided by the owner or a client, basically principal, the who is going to award the work. Okay, he will be deciding the earnest money deposit, how much that money deposit should be there. Okay, this earnest money deposit will be made in major transactions. Major transactions means not for a very small amount of work or very small kind of construction. It will be usually for major type of construction works. Okay, the official procurement process. Okay, earnest money deposit will be before the official procurement process, and as I told you, it is helpful in showing the interest. That is, applicant demonstrate. Okay, the contractor who is willing, the applicant demonstrate an earnest of good faith. The next type of deposit is in tenders is security deposit. Okay, the security deposit, it is against the work or promising that he will complete the work. The contractor will complete the job as per the requirements or as per the contract agreement, whatever the contractor has been entered into, as per that he will be finishing that work. So to show that interest or to make sure that he will complete the work as per the contractor document, the contractor keeps some money with the owner or a client or a principal. That is called as security deposit. So it is a monetary deposit given to a lender or a seller or a landlord. Okay, sometimes this is not on the only on the behalf of the contractor. Sometimes you purchase a land from a person. Okay, once you purchase a land, you will not be paying him completely, but to make sure that you will pay him completely, you keep some or you give some amount of some amount to that particular owner, landowner. Okay, that is called as security deposit, so that landowner will not sell his land to some other third party because he has already received money from you. Okay, so security deposit is a proof of intent. Proof of intent means intention of doing work. So here the contractor or the purchaser or the buyer showing that intention to purchase the land or intention to do the work. Okay, that is security deposit acts as a proof of intent. Okay, Security deposit, sometimes it is a refundable or non-refundable. Okay, refundable or a non-refundable, again it depends on the type of contract where the parties are entering into. So refundable means usually in some of the projects, some 2%, 3% of the total cost project, they will be keeping as a security deposit. But once they submit at the end of the completion, after completion, once they submit the defects liability certificate, that amount of security deposit will be returned back to the contractor. Okay, this type of agreement or this type of things we call it as a refundable security deposit. Sometimes it is a non-refundable security deposits. Usually we'll adjust that amount of share of security deposit with the total money. If you consider there is some 10 lakhs project and you have paid 2 lakhs as a security deposit, once the complete work has been done, okay, that 2 lakhs will be deducted and it will be um, it will be deducted and it will be paid to the person. That is called as non-refundable type of security deposit. Security deposit is a measure of a security for the recipient. Okay, here the main aim is to make sure that recipient is secure. The third concept of a tender is enquiry documents. So when well before the parties entering into contract, okay, there will be enquiry documents. So usually enquiry documents means once tender has been announced, okay, the client or the owner or the principal, once the tender he announces the tender, okay, he should disclose the scope of the work. Okay, what kind of work he is going to do, what is the scope of the work. Okay, so this will be mentioned in the tender documents. Usually these tender documents will be prepared by the principal. Principal means the owner, okay, who is calling for the tender, that person will be preparing the tender documents. Okay, to whom this tender or this enquiry document will be issued? It will be issued to the tenderers under cover of a formal invitation. So the person here, the principal or our owner here, he will not go and disclose all the scope of the work or the related documents with the each with all the persons, or it is not a public. This enquiry documents is a limited for the persons who are showing interest in that particular project. So the owner here will be issuing this, the principal will be issuing this enquiry documents to the persons who are really interested in work. Okay, so this enquiry documents has three parts. We will see in the next slide. So the number of individual documents to serve a specific purpose. So as I told you, the three parts of enquiry documents is the first part of the enquiry document is requirements for tendering. It consists of requirements for tendering. So what are the requirements for tendering? Here the first inquiry document is invitation to tender. Invitation to tender means the how the notification has to be put, whether it should be published in newspaper, whether it should be published in a particular magazines, or whether it should be uploaded on some online portals, like that. Okay, this particular invitation to tender, how to process this invitation and what is the mode of publication of this tender is called as the first set of requirement of tendering document, that is invitation to tender. The next type of tendering process or the document involved in requirements is instruction to tenderers. Okay, here the first document was invitation to tender. For example, there is a wall construction, so there is a scope for wall construction amounting to some 30 lakhs. Okay, so this invitation is called as invitation to tender. But once invitation has been made, the tenderers or the contractors should be given some information, okay, or some details, how to submit the tender or what is the scope of the tender, where this tender actually takes place, or where is the execution of the work, what is the cost of the particular project, or what is the EMD of the particular project, or what is the security deposit, and what is the completion time. So all these instructions, basic instructions, as well as how the bank guarantee should be submitted, like all these details will be submitted in the second set of document, that is called as instructions to tenderers. Okay, okay, this is submitted in instruction to tenders. The next third type of document in requirements for tendering is uh, the content of the tender. Content of the tender means again the detailed scope of the work. For example, if the um, road has to be laid between point A and point B, and the tender has been called from Chinese 15 kilometer to Chinese 30 kilometer. So that particular 15 kilometer stretch from Chinese 15 kilometer to Chinese 30 kilometer has to be mentioned in the content of the tender. Okay, the details of the tender is nothing but the content of the tender. The second set of inquiry document is contract documents for tendering. So what I mean by contract documents for tendering, basically there are three group of documents for the final contract. The first uh, contract document is the form of agreement. Okay, if the contractor wishes to take up that tender and the principal wants to agree to take up the tender, so what is the standard form, or what is the standard template, okay, that has to be signed between the two parties? Means usually in this form of agreement, the basic clauses are the guidelines. So how the agreement will be made, this template will be attached to the invitation. Okay, once invitation has been made, once they give the documents, so there this complete details of form of agreement will be attached. In what way they are, the principal is accepting bank guarantees, in what way the principal wants to execute the work, or in what way the contract agreement should be there between the two parties. All these details will be mentioned in the form of agreement. So the next group of document is conditions of contract. Conditions of contract means basically the clauses of the contract. Okay, usually the basis for forming this contract clauses will be on the standard contract clauses, but based on the project requirements, the conditions of contract will be framed. Okay, the third group of document is the specification and drawings. So what I mean by specification and drawings, the complete project details. Okay, what is the proposed plan, or if there is some road execution, what is the alignment map or key alignment drawings, or what are the design drawings, what are the different architectural drawings, what is the specifications that needs to be followed, whether Indian standards codes has to be followed, or whether American standards codes has to be followed, or a British standards codes have to be followed, and what is the requirement as per the design. Okay, the basic specifications and drawings will be given in the second set of contract documents. Okay, okay, if there are, once this has been issued, once this contract documents has been issued, if there is any issues, or if there are any matters that has been obligations raised by the contractor, or if there is any clarifications, this amendments to the inquiry documents, this is a basically third set of uh, inquiry document. Okay, I'll okay, it is a third set of inquiry documents. Here, the amendments to the inquiry documents will be made. Okay, usually, this will be issued during the tender period. So, the role here is to amend or supplement one or more of the inquiry documents. Notice to the tenders will be given if there is any changes in the particular basic tender document. Okay, those issues or that things will be solved here in the amendments to the inquiry documents. Okay, so the overview of inquiry documents. Okay, the first is requirements for tendering. Requirements for tendering is the first set of inquiry document. The second set of inquiry document is contract documents for tendering. The third set of inquiry document is amendments to the inquiry documents. So in the first set of inquiry document, that is requirements for tendering. Here the invitation to tender, instruction to tenderers, content of the tender will be mentioned. This is just an overview of whatever the things I had discussed in the previous slides. So in the second set, the contract documents for tendering, there will be form of agreement, conditions of contract, specifications and drawings. This will be in the second set of contract documents. Next is amendments to inquiry documents, that is notice to tenderers for amending to, or that is requirements for tendering. If there is any change in the requirements, those changes will be made in the amendments of inquiry documents. Contract documents for tendering, if there are any new contract documents or if there is any new changed contract documents, those amended contract documents will be given in the third set of inquiry documents. See, all these inquiry documents will be by the principal to the contractor. The invitation to tender. So in usually in the tenders we have different types of invitation. Okay, the one type of invitation is negotiated tender. So the invitation to tender, it is usually negotiated tender. Negotiated tender means here the contractor, there will be for a particular work, the okay. So then in the different type of tendering process, it is usually negotiated tender. Negotiated tender means the contractors, there will be many applications for a single job by different contractors. Then each of the contractor is evaluated, and based on the criteria that is set up by principal, the contractor will be chosen. Okay, this type of process is called as negotiated tender. Whereas when it comes for limited competition or a selective tendering, for that particular job, the persons invited for tendering process will be limited. Means if there is some special kind of construction work which has to be executed by the specialist, in such cases this limited competition or a selective tendering process will come. Okay, for example, if I take the tunneling job for underground some metro work or underground tunneling work, if I want to take that example, here for tunneling job itself, the contractors who are specialists in doing tunneling, those people are to be invited. So this invitation for a particular specialist we call, or for that particular contracts we call it as a limited competition or selective tendering. So the other meaning of limited competition or selective tendering is if there are some material suppliers who have a good reputation or who have a good relation with that particular company. Okay, here in such cases you invite those material suppliers only for tendering process. Okay, this type of tendering process, it is called as limited competition or a selective tendering. The third type of tendering is open competition, including international competitive tendering. Again, open competition here means the you call number of contractors for a job. Okay, this is open to everyone. Okay, not a particular person. It is open to everyone. Okay, here the outline is negotiated tender means you call the contractors, negotiate with them, award the contract. That is negotiated tender. Limited competition means for a particular set of people you call them, do the negotiation and award the contract. That is called as limited competition. Open competition means you call a tendering for many number of people. That is called as open competition. Okay, the as I told you, the in negotiated tender, price is negotiated with a single contractor. There might be some 10 contractors coming into picture, but you shortlist very few contractors, and out of that you'll choose one contractor who is most suitable, and you will be negotiating with that particular contractor. That is called as price is negotiated with a single contractor. Here the owner is not provided with the competitive prices. Means uh, if there is a material supplier A, B, C, D, like that, there is four different material supplier for a material supply of X. For a cement supply, let us assume if it is a cement supply, there is a supplier A, B, C and D. Here you will not call all the four material suppliers, but instead you call a material A supplier, okay, and you negotiate with him for that particular job. And here the material supplier A will not give the competitive prices of B, C, D. Okay, there is no concept of competitive prices. That is the meaning of owner is not provided with competitive prices. Sometimes the cost of work may be higher. Okay, here since you are not taking the prices of B, C, D, material supplier B, C and D, okay, the cost or the offer that has been made by the A might be higher, because what happens in the market is sometimes there will be scarcity in the supply of particular materials. So in such cases, for uninterrupted supply, you choose a particular contractor. Okay, though the quotation is high, or though the rate of supply for that particular material is high, you select that particular contractor, because if you select that contractor, then definitely there will be uninterrupted supply of the material. Okay, that is the meaning of this cost of work may be higher. So here the owner may prefer to run this risk. Here the owner may prefer to run this risk. Methods and policies of the contractor are known. Means the owner is capable of taking this risk. Why? Because you know the contractor very well. Okay, so as I told you, if there is a material supplier A, B, C for a supplying of cement, here you select A, though there is a higher rate. Why? Because you take a risk that he will supply according to your needs. Okay, that is the meaning. Here the owner may prefer to run this risk. Okay, this procedure can be adopted under the following circumstances. So in the next, this procedure can be adopted under the following circumstances, where the firm's integrity and reliability is well established. So again, taking an example of that cement supplier, there is a supplier A, B, C. Okay, you call supplier A, do the negotiation and award a contract to him. Okay, this awarding of contract to A for a higher price is because you have a good, well established relationship with that particular contractor A. Why? Because you know at any point of time that contractor A will supply the materials without the interruption, or without any scarcity, or without any delay, without hindering the work of the construction. So you choose the firms, okay, which though the price is higher, you choose those firms where they have a good integrity and a well established relationship with that firm. Okay, here again the one more important point that matters here is the work culture of that particular organization. Basically the scope and experience of the firm. Okay, how this material supplier is, this particular material supplier A is having a good rapport with the past. So from past many years, how the this material supplier is showing his interest, or how he is having a good relationship, how the performance of that material supplier is with this firm from the in the past. Okay, the experience of the firm comes into picture. Okay, so this negotiated tendering we will be doing in the limited type of firms. Usually, sometimes if there is any only one firm who supplies the material, okay, if there is only one cement supplier in the that particular city, okay, then definitely you have to go to that particular supplier and do the negotiation. Okay, so ask him to supply for a lower price, ask him to supply for uninterrupted supply. Okay, this is where the negotiated tender comes into picture. Okay, so the procedure for negotiated tender is engineer invites a firm to tender. Okay, so engineer from the client side or a principal side or a owner side, he will call the uh, particular firm or a supplier or a contractor to the tender, and he explains, the engineer in charge explains the procedure, scope, okay, procedure of the supply of the material, the scope of the work, and what is the scope, means for how many days this work will be there, and how much material that particular contractor has to supply, from what, when is the start date and when is the end date, when the materials has to be um, uh, arriving at the site. That complete details will be explained by the engineer. Okay, engineer or a contractor prepares the BOQ. Here either the material supplier or the engineer from the principal side, okay, will be preparing the bill of quantities. Bill of quantities is nothing but the estimation. Okay, so how much the material has to be supplied, that particular estimation will be prepared by the engineer or contractor. Okay, then once the material has been supplied, the priced bills are handed over to the, from the contractor to the client or the owner. Okay, then the rates will be examined as per the company's standard rates. Okay, then the tendering process will be taken ahead. Okay, here the next continuation is engineer and contractor reach an agreement if the rates are admissible. Okay, then engineer and contractor reach an agreement. Then an agreed schedule of prices is sent to the owner. Okay, so the agreed schedule of prices will be sent to the owner. Okay, so then approval and assent will be given by the principal to the contractor or a material supplier for the supply of material. Okay, this is the procedure in negotiated tender. When it comes to limited competition, okay, when it comes to limited competition, there will be very few contractors for executing works. Okay, for example, taking the work of tunneling work for metro stations or for some highway work. Okay, there will be very few contractors who do tunneling jobs. So in that case, we go for specialized contractor, okay, who takes up that work. Okay, so usually it will be a private job. What happens in this case is the owner directly talks to the contractor or a material supplier. So the owner directly negotiates. So hence it will be limited type of competition. Usually in the jobs, the limited competition will be applicable in the jobs such as when there is a construction of monumental structures, okay, or some, there is a retrofitting or a renovation jobs that has to be done. Okay, there this limited competition or the limited contractors who are usually performing that type of constructions will be called or will be invited for the tendering. So sometimes in industrial construction such as uh, laying of vacuum dewatered flooring or laying of some epoxy flooring. Okay, so in such instances, you require the contractor who is very specialized in those particular work itself. So you call the persons who are specialized in that work. That is uh, uh, the in cases of industrial constructions, and some other works, as I told you, if it is a tunneling job or if there is a laying of pile foundations, okay, laying of some precast segments or erection of some precast elements, then in such cases you will be calling the contractors who are very specialized in their knowledge, and the contractors who are having those equipments. Okay, for example, if you take the precast construction of some 25-story residential building. Here, there are many activities involved. Basically, if you go for precast construction, the foundation will be the conventional type, or sometimes the foundation also will be a precast one. So in such cases, the designing of this precast members, or the complete set of building has to be done by a structural designer who is specialized in designing precast construction. Okay, so once it has been designed, and once it has been manufactured, this based on those specification or the drawings, once this fabrication of precast elements have been made, okay, the installation also will be should be made by a person, or by the company, or the uh, contractor who is having a specialized knowledge, and also they should be having a specialized equipment. Okay, for example, here in the precast constructions, once you join the panels, you have to do the grouting works. Okay, jet grouting works you have to do for filling up of the connections. So for doing such kind of jobs, you require the contractor who is having that equipment itself. Or while erection sequence of this particular precast elements, you require machineries, where sometimes it will require some pre-tensioning machineries, or post-tensioning machineries, where this segments of a precast will be laid and the post-tensioning will be done. Okay, the contractor who is having such knowledge, and the contractor who is having the equipments, okay, for such type of constructions will be called for such jobs. That is what we call for limited competition. But when it comes to open competition, okay, we call tenders for open way. Usually, the tenders will be called through the public advertisements, or yeah, public advertisements means it might be through the magazines, newspapers, or some media, um, in the some uh, exhibitions. Okay, there you make a advertisement of the work, whatever the intention of work is there. The principal or the owner will give the advertisement of the work public in a public manner. That is called as public advertisement. Okay, for what type of works? Okay, usually if you want to construct your own house, you will not give the public advertisement. Okay, it is your private work. Okay, so if you want to do flooring job for your house, you will not give a public advertisement. Okay, you will not call for a contractors in a public advertisement. So here, for what kind of work it should be public advertisement? Usually the work will be public works. Public work means if there is a construction of a bus stand that has to be made by the government, then it is a public work. Or if the road has to be laid from city A to city B, okay, then call for work, or invitation for tendering for such kind of work. Yes, it is a public work. Or if there is a water tank that has to be constructed for a particular area, okay, then it is a public work. Okay, so usually the government works that has been called in an open manner, in through newspapers, or through online, or through the websites, those are called as public works. Okay, so why this open competition will be made, why this public advertisement will be given? See, the main aim to achieve is to obtain the most advantageous terms. So most advantageous terms means to get a more refined manner of the contractors. Okay, if it is a construction of bus stand itself, if you call open tendering, or if you call a work through open tendering, there will be some around 10 to 15 standard contractors will be there who have performed similar works. So the for evaluation purpose, and to award a contract from a principal, or to get a better quality of work done. Okay, so to obtain the most advantageous terms, so this open competition tendering will be helpful. Okay, here uh, in this type of work, the contractor is supposed to submit the um, proposal for work, and proposal for equipments, and also has to disclose what are the equipments that the contractor is already having with him. Okay, so this open competition based on those criteria, the main criteria, how much the contractor is offering and what are the equipments that a contractor is already having. Okay, based on these criteria, and there are some other criteria such as past works and all those things. So based on this, open competition will be evaluated. Okay, in open competition there are two groups, basically two groups of open competition. The first group is local competitive bidding. In local competitive bidding, it is restricted to Indian companies only. Okay, sometimes if a tender has been called in Bangalore, the Bangalore municipal authority, it will not be taken up by some Delhi contractor. Why? Because the contractor will, this particular contract is limited to that particular area. Okay, this is called as local competitive bidding. Usually the Indian companies will take up contract in India only. Okay, sometimes it will be based on the regional wise. Okay, if a contract work has been issued in one district, the other district contractor cannot enter or take up such kind of works, or from the other state the contractor cannot come and take such kind of works. So this is called as local competitive bidding. So the eligibility criteria itself, here itself, will disclose what are the uh, pre-qualification criteria for tendering. So there the local competitive bidding comes into picture. The next type of group in open competition is international competitive bidding. So what do you mean by international competitive bidding? See, it is open to all contractors including international firms. So if there is a expressway that has to be constructed between two major cities, or two metro cities, okay, you want to construct a expressway, definitely this is a very good quality of work that is required for the public. So in such cases, the highly specified, or I can say very um, extraordinary work, in such cases, the contractors or international competitive bidding, or basically international firms, can be called, because some technologies might not be there with the Indian contractors, or based on for the regional contractors, the equipments or the machinery might not be there, or the persons resource persons might not be there, and the capability of the company might not be there to take up such kind of work. In such cases, we go for international competitive bidding. Okay, so this will be open to all contractors including international firms. Okay, so sale of tender documents. So basically, sale of tender documents means the once the once the principal wants to invite for a particular work, it will be through the notices and advertisements. Once notices and advertisements have been given, it is usually through the appropriate classified advertisement. Okay, and amount of publicity to be given. So usually in the um, cases of urban work, as I told you, if there is a village road that has to be laid between point A and point B, you will not be disclosing this work in the international magazine, or international tenders need not be called in such cases. Okay, that is what we call it as uh, appropriate classified advertisement. Means the works which are of conventional nature, or which is limited to a very small extent. Okay, so in such cases, it is sufficient to advertise in the newspaper in the town or a city involved. Okay, as I told you, if a village road has to be laid between A and B, that particular state or that particular district, the work, the invitation of tender can be published there. It need not be published in the international newspapers, or it need not be published in international website. So the scope of the work also matters here. Okay, in the similar way, if it is a major work, okay, if its scope is broadened, or if it is a expressway between two metropolitan cities. So in such way, so in such work, the tenders has to be called internationally. So it is a major work that falls under the category of major work. In such case, the national newspapers and towns and cities, there the supply of papers in those standard magazines, you are supposed to publish the notice of tender. Okay, if there is a small amount of work in a country area, additional advertisements in the local regional newspapers. So usually the other way of notice advertising is the nationally published trade journals. Usually if there is any international exhibition going on, there will be brochures or the magazines that are kept in those exhibitions. There you can see this nationally published trade journals. There will be some invitations to there is some scope of work or the projects that are launching by the company. So those details can be published in such kind of nationally published trade journals. So you might have seen in the exhibitions they will be having the brochures where some company XYZ is going to launch a new project, or a company XYZ has bought a new machinery and they have widened the company's resources, like that. You might have seen that. Is what does that mean is that there are some projects which are currently out to the tendering. Okay, that is the way of notices and advertisement in in particular construction projects. So as I told you earlier, we have three set of inquiry document. Okay, in that three set of inquiry documents, we have usually the principal will be giving those set of inquiry documents to the contractor. So it will not be usually in a free manner. If the contractor comes and asks with the principal or the owner will not give the inquiry documents free of cost. So usually there will be some cost or the some amount will be charged by the principal for issuing of inquiry documents. So in what way this charging for inquiry document is happening? So usually it will be refundable or non-refundable. Okay, so either it is refundable or non-refundable. Okay, we'll discuss I'll discuss this refundable or non-refundable in the next slides. So on bona fide tender means once the tender has been bona fide, then the principal can refund the amount, okay, whatever he has charged for the inquiry documents. If the tenderer is not a bona fide person, then the principal may keep that money as a non-refundable deposit. So usually this inquiry documents will be prepared by the principal. Hence the principal will be bearing the cost of printing and issuing the documents. The role of the principal will be bearing the cost of printing and issuing the documents. Usually the refundable charge, why it has been made, it will be basically for the handling of the deposit, accounting for it, and it is a time consuming. Means this particular refundable deposit is a time consuming, because the for preparation of inquiry documents, the owner or the principal might have spent some money, okay, to get printed of all those specifications, to get printed of all drawings, or to get printed of all those contract documents. Okay, so if he goes for refundable type of charge, it will be costing him more, as it will be time consuming and it will be burden for the principal also. So the three ways for charging for inquiry document. The first way of charging for the inquiry document is charge for the first set. So if there is a contractor coming to the principal and asking him to issue the inquiry documents, the contractor may give him the inquiry documents and he might charge for the first set. So whatever he issues the inquiry documents, the principal might charge some amount, some 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, based on the size of the contract inquiry document. He might charge for the first set, but once that contractor becomes a bona fide tender, once he becomes a bona fide tender, then the principal may refund the amount to the contractor. Okay, but if the contractor wants additional sets, if he want to distribute amongst his subcontractors in such way, okay, there will be non-refundable charge for additional sets. If a contractor wants more number of sets of inquiry documents, then it will be non-refundable. The contract definitely the principal will give, but it will be non-refundable charge. So some other ways of charging is no charge for the first set of inquiry document, but non-refundable charge for additional sets. So first set, once a contractor comes to the principal and asks him to issue the inquiry documents, the principal might think, yes, the contractor is really interested to execute the work, so I will give him the inquiry documents with free of cost. Okay, so there is no charge for the first set, but the Hmm. But the principal will charge a non-refundable charge for additional sets. So that is second way of charging. The third way of charging for inquiry document is non-refundable charge for all the sets. So whether you take one set or two set, three set, or whether you give it for subcontractors, whether you give it for any other persons, for one set I'll be charging so many rupees. Okay, this is how the principal charges for the inquiry documents. Okay, the first type of option, okay, the first way of charging where it is applicable. Usually the first way of charging, it is applicable for unrestricted tendering. Unrestricted tendering means it is a open tendering. Okay, in open tendering process, usually the first set will be charged, but on bona fide tender, once the tender has been awarded to a particular contractor, that amount, the inquiry document, whatever that amount has been charged by the principal, he will be returning that amount back to the contractor. So that first way of option or first option of type of charging will be applicable in unrestricted tendering. Okay, so where this first option is from openly invited tenders or from pre-registered tenderers. Here the term pre-registered tenderers means the persons, so the contractor who are enlisted in a particular department. For example, there is some water resource department where the list of contractors have been already prepared. So in such cases, the contract will be awarded to those amongst those contractors who are pre-listed. Those contractors, we call it them as pre-registered tenderers. Okay, so the principal bears the cost, and if there is only increases contractor overheads, but must be paid for in high tender sums. Usually, in such cases, if the charge is made, the contractors will have to pay, or they will be quoting high tender sums. Okay, the second type of charging document. The second type of charging document, the first set is free. In second option, the first set of inquiry document is free, but it is chargeable for all the sets. Okay, so the second option here, for the charging of inquiry documents is, it will be in the restricted tendering. The restricted tendering means you call a registered tenders. I told you restricted tendering means you call a very few contractors. Usually, as I told in the earlier slide, that is for monumental structures or some specialized construction. Okay, there we go for this second type of tendering, second option, that is a restricted tendering. Usually there will be nominated contractors or a pre-qualified contractors. So here the principal bears the cost. Okay, principal bears the cost for uh, preparing the inquiry document. The third option of charging for inquiry document is applicable to all types of tenders. Is irrespective of how many sets the contractors take. Okay, it is chargeable. This is called as third option. That is all types of tenders. Okay, the charge sets here. The charge made by the owner or the principal. It should be in what nature? It should be realistic and it should be sufficient to cover the cost of printing and handling the documents. So it should be sufficient to cover. So the principal will be bearing all the charges, right? So the charge what has been made for inquiry documents, it should be sufficient to cover the cost of printing and handling the documents. So in what way the principal should make fix up this value? It should be high enough to discourage the non-serious tenderer. So some contractors might be non-serious, so they will be uh, taking up the inquiry. If you sell 10 rupees pen for 2 rupees, definitely many people will take. So if you sell 10 rupees pen for 25 rupees, definitely nobody will take. So here also in the same way, the inquiry documents should be in such a way that it should be high enough to discourage the non-serious tenderer, and also on the other way it should be low enough not to discourage a genuine tender. So it should be high enough to discourage non-serious tender. Also it should be low enough not to discourage genuine tender. Okay, this is the way of charging for inquiry documents. So in the third option, so the how the cost should be fixed or the charge should be fixed. This charge should be fixed in such a way that the cost of plan and the document printing, okay, all this will be prepared by the principal. So all this cost should be incurred. It should include the cost of collating, binding and handling charges. So allowances for wastage and losses to be provided while preparing, means while quoting that particular cost, allowances for wastage and losses has to be given. So usually some surcharge, if it is costing 100 rupees, some surcharge 10 to 25% of the net cost. If it is costing 100 rupees, 110 rupees to 125 rupees will be considered as that 10 to 25% will be of the net cost will be considered as a surcharge. Okay, so tenderers to collect the documents at the nominated place of issue. So then comes preparation of lump sum tender. So the preparation of, so what I mean by lump sum tender means if a room has to be built, so you call a contractor and you say for rupees 1 lakh you prepare complete construct the room and hand it over back to me by doing all the finishing works. So this type of tendering is called as lump sum tender. So usually the contractor first estimates the quantities of materials and computes the cost, and the contractor estimates the cost to be incurred for the entire labor force and the plant, uh, and the amount of profit is decided here. So the other type of tender is a unit price tender or a measurement tender based on the unit work or based on the units consumed, okay, or based on the amount of work done, the uh, per square foot or per cubic meter, okay, like that the charge will be made. This is called as unit price tender or a measurement tender. So preparation of BOT tender means build, operate, transfer tender. So here usually it will be in case of highway construction and such activities. Here what happens is the company will be called by the government body, and contract will be awarded for some leisure, some period, service period, like for 20 years, 30 years, like that. That particular uh, period will be there. So for that complete period, this build, operate, transfer, or sometimes you construct the facility, operate it, and transfer back the facility. That is called as BOT type of tender. So here we call this that time period as concession period. What do you mean by concession period? As I told you, in cases of highway construction, usually the government will be giving contracts to a private company. The private companies, what they'll do, they'll not uh, complete the work and they'll not directly hand it over back to the government. But what they'll do instead, they will be maintaining the roads or they will be operating that particular highways for some years. That some years, it might be some 10 years, 20 years based on the agreement. Okay, that years we call it as concession period. So again, that concession period, how it is calculated, it depends on the cost of construction, rate of interest, and it is by the expected profit from the concession, that project. Based on that, concession period will be concession period will be fixed. So uh, Sometimes here the authority fixes the period of concession and and seeks offers on the basis of grants expected from the employer. So this is the summary of this session. So here we had discussed about invitation to tender, what are the ways of charging of inquiry documents and types of tenders. Hope this session or this video will be helpful. Thank you.